Well, spring tends to be the season when home sales start to ramp up around these parts, and that means that new people could be moving into your neighborhood. So today we're talking about minding your manners with your neighbors so everybody lives in a place of harmony, we hope. Etiquette expert Jody R.R. Smith of Mannersmith Consulting is joining us some guidance on how to be the polite neighbor. Sitcoms are made of what neighbors really do to each other.
Yes, there's a reason we find them funny. They resonate because we see them in our neighbors. And if none of your neighbors are funny, then you're the funny one.
Uh-oh. Okay. So, you know that the first thing that happens when someone moves to the neighborhood, if you're watching the American sitcom, people show up with gifts or a homemade baked thing. And what if you're shy? What if you're busy? What's okay to do nowadays that doesn't necessarily involve baking from scratch if that's not your thing?
Yeah, you don't have to bake if it's not your thing. You certainly can buy if you want to give something, or you don't have to give something at all. It's a nice gesture, but if that's not your thing or you're not up to it at that point in time, at least greet the person. So at a minimum, go over, knock on their door and say, hi, I live one house over, and introduce yourself. I like to bring a letter because when you're moving in, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
It's very easy to forget names, so I like to include a letter that has my name, my address, and my phone number, so that way if the person wants to get in contact with me, ask about a pediatrician or a veterinarian, they're able to get in contact with me.
When do you do that? Like as the moving trucks are rolling up, or give it a few days?
I usually like to do it as the moving truck is leaving.
Oh, really? You wait and watch to see when they're leaving? Okay. Well,
I'm not going to be with the binoculars, but usually you can tell when the moving truck is left, and then I'll go over and knock on the door and introduce myself. And if I'm not necessarily going to bake something a la Brie from Desperate Housewives, I'm not a big muffin in a basket kind of gal, but I'll usually bring something over, maybe something that was made in town to give
This
to
is
them.
Our favorite bakery down the street. We love the croissants. You should try it. Okay. Now, what if you've got a long-standing neighbor, and you know them, but there's something that's really bugging you, like maybe you're seeing too much through their window?
Yes.
How do you handle a neighbor problem with someone you already know?
So what you want to do is you want to do it very gently. It does not have to be accusatory. And you want to say something along the lines of, you know, Scott, when I walked the dog last night, I realized that I could see not just in your front window, but all the way through back to your kitchen. I wanted to let you know, I know we're friends, but you might not want everybody in the neighborhood to be able to see what you're having for dinner. So give them a heads up in a gentle way so that they're on notice that they are broadcasting their lifestyle to the world.
Uh-huh. And what about the neighbor who comes over too much?
Yes.
I mean, you might be just tired, you're busy, you work, and you're like, I'm coming home from my refuge, and then 10 minutes later, knock, knock, knock.
Yes.
So how do you set boundaries without being rude?
So you certainly can open the door and say, Kara, it's so great to see you. I'm so sorry I can't talk right now. I look forward to seeing you this weekend or at the barbecue. Or is it a quick question? Is it something, did you need a cup of sugar? You do not have to let them in, and you do not have to prolong the conversation. Now, if you're doing this every day or every other day, at some point, I don't have to answer the door. I can be
But how do you make them stop knocking? Because maybe it's annoying. Can you say, like, listen, is there a polite way of saying that? Maybe you should call before you come or something.
Absolutely. But the thing is, if you say, I want you to call before you come, what you're saying is, I'm happy for you to come over. You just need to call first. If you don't want the person over at all, don't give them false hope. Better to introduce them to a neighbor down the street or 2 blocks over. Or if your library has a book club, maybe start giving them information. Have it ready at your door. So knock, knock, knock. Oh, Kara, I'm so glad that I saw you. Do you know the library's starting a book club? Here's some information.
Right.
So to give them some other social outlets.
Okay, so if you've got that lonely neighbor, maybe it's an elderly person, and it's kind, you want to check in on them, you want to teach your kids that we care about the people around us, but you don't have to sacrifice your own peace of mind.
Absolutely, and a lot of communities have senior community groups, so they'll come around with a van and pick them up, or they'll have people who will come and check on them. Check with your local churches and synagogues and mosques. If you know you have a lonely neighbor, help out. We are all part of that community.
Let's say parties are coming up, graduation parties, things like that. Do you have to invite all the neighbors, and what's the etiquette to let them know, hey, you know, I'm going to have a lot of people on the street?
So you don't have to invite them, but you do need to let them know if you're going to have a party of 40 or more, because they're going to need to know. Let them know that it's coming up. If it's somebody that you like, by all means you can invite them, but at least let them know we're having a big party. It's for my daughter's graduation. It's going to go on until about 10:30, but we promise that the music is going off at 10:30, so that they know. Just give them a heads up in advance.
What if you do have a problem with your neighbors and there's a noise complaint going on? They're having a party. Maybe their teens are having a party. Do you just call the police because you know that they've reached that limit? Or is it better that you call them yourself?
So my first step is always to go over face to face and knock on the doors. The teens could be having a party, but it could be that the parents aren't home.
Yeah.
So I need to assess the situation.
So you walk over.
Walk over and knock on the door. If they don't answer the door, that's when I might call, or then we go to the police. But my first step is always to go on over. Same thing with a barking dog. I've spent lots of time going over to my neighbors, knock, knock, knock. Your dog has been barking for about 35 minutes now. You might want to bring her inside. And I try to make it as gently as possible. Did you know that somebody's dog got sprayed by a skunk 2 days ago? You might want to keep an eye if your dog is barking that much. It could be because there's a skunk in your backyard. So make it a little bit about why they should be incented to bring their own dog inside.
Okay. So there's a lot of snowstorms that we've had, all that sort of thing. If you have an elderly neighbor and you know that they're just having trouble, should you offer to plow their driveway too or help them out?
I usually don't offer. I usually go over.
You just do it?
I just go over, but I also have teens at home, so sometimes I'll send the teens. But yes, I don't bother asking because I don't want them to say no. And the fact of the matter is, even if they have a service, even if they have a child who lives in another part of town who's going to come over, if there was an accident immediately, the ambulance would not be able to get in, the paramedics wouldn't be able to get to them. I try to do it as soon as I'm done with my driveway and my walkway. We go over to, we have 2 elderly neighbors nearby, and we do both of their houses.
I bet you would be a very nice neighbor to have, Jody.
I try. As long as you're not having the homemade muffins, you're okay with me.
Good. I'm glad it's okay to buy. All right. Thank you, Jody. For more etiquette advice and a look at the seminars offered by Jody, you can head to management.com. We're going to take a short